Okay, I want to talk some more about these pickups here because there was something I didn't brush on. I knew there was something I forgot. There always is something that I forget. Looking at these pickups, these have the pushback type wire, the old school style wiring. First thing I want you to pay attention to is you're going to notice some copper wires coming off of the coil wraps, coming to these lugs on the back where they tie into these leads. Be careful when you get to messing around with these pickups. You don't break that little coil strand coming off of there. It will break. It's copper. It's fragile. So you want to be careful not to do that. If you do that, most of the time it can be fixed. You can usually unwrap it just a little bit. Not all the time, but most of the time. Depends on how tight it was wrapped, things of that nature. And save that. You definitely don't want to take that chance because that's a pain in the butt. Secondly, the mounting holes. You'll want to sit there and take the tip of a thin tipped X-Acto knife, just shove it up through the hole, twirl it around. You're going to notice there's a bunch of wax in those usually because they dip these in wax. Once you clear it out, you still want to take the screw before you even try to mount it, put it into the hole, thread it through a couple times to clean out the debris, the extra wax. It'll make things a lot easier when you're trying to mount it to the pick guard. Alright, I'm back and I've got some Ozzy in the background playing some Crazy Train. Speaking of Randy Rhoads, that's why I started playing guitar. I remember I got introduced to MTV for the first time and I seen a video on TV. It was called Shot in the Dark. And I was like, who is this Ozzy guy? At the time I was pretty young and ignorant. So then I did some research on him because the song just blew me away with Jake Ely's playing. I had no idea who he was. I didn't realize I wanted to play guitar at the time. So I went back and bought all of Ozzy's backlogs. I knew of Black Sabbath. I just didn't know who the singer was. So, I come from a small city, so that stuff wasn't real popular at the time. And I got the backlogs, the back catalogs, Blizzard of Oz, Diary of a Madman. And that's when I first heard Randy's playing, and it just blew me away. I must have only been about 13 years old at the time. I immediately took my money that I had saved from working odd jobs and things, went down to the music store and bought a guitar, and that was pretty much it. Randy got me playing. Jake kind of turned me in that direction. Randy got me playing. Musically, growing up through the years, I had all the right influences. My uncle watched me a lot of Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin. My father was into Bob Seger, Three Dog Night, Doobie Brothers. My mother was into Kansas, Styx, Journey. My aunt was into, Loverboy, 38 Special, The Outfield, that kind of stuff. So I had all the right influences, but the problem is it went from my ear to my brain, and when it comes out to my fingers, it's not even close to what I've listened to. So I'm just screwed up like that. So on to the serious stuff. You're saying, well, Shane, you're talking about heat shrink tube earlier. What's the deal with heat shrink tube? Here's what I do. Let me grab the body here. You'll notice with a strap body, you get this center channel coming up through here. That center channel is for the wire coming off the pickups to make room for that. And I don't like to have wires flopping around loose. I like it to be nice, neat, tidy. So what I do is I take a piece of heat shrink tube. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run the neck wires up through it. I'm going to bend those on the end just like that. And the reason why I do that is because I know they're the neck wires. The neck pickup wires. And technically you don't have to do this. Bend those wires because obviously the middle pickup wires are going to be a little bit longer coming out the other end. The reason why I got into the habit of doing that is working on other people's guitars where somebody else has been and hacked around. I see so many guys that cut the wire down. I don't cut the wire down on these due to the simple fact, if they break, I'll cut them down. Some guys say, you lose a little bit of tone, things of that nature. Maybe not, I don't know. I like to leave the full length of the wire. You never know when I decide I want to swap these out, maybe do some pickup trading or something. You don't want to cut them down and somebody else can't use them. because by the time you add the other wire onto it, then you definitely are losing some of that pathway. So the bending is not necessary. It's just a habit I got into because I'm working on other people's junk. Somebody's been in there routing around and tearing stuff up. So what I do is that unfortunately I smoke, but fortunately I've always got a lighter on me. So what I do then is the bridge pickup wire out of the way, and heat shrink tubing is exactly that. You apply heat, it shrinks, gives me a nice good fit, keeps the wires nice and tidy, and you're done. So then what I do is I grab a little bit bigger piece of heat shrink tube, and put the wires through. In fact, I'm just going to unbend these because I know which one's the neck, which one's the bridge or middle. Through these through, and then we'll throw the bridge pickup through. And again, we just do the same thing. Get this over here. And I'll still have to move these around a little bit to get them in and out of the body. That's okay, because they'll still be nice, neat, and tidy. And we'll be careful with this this heat. You don't want to overheat the wire and things of that nature. Then what I'll do is I'll, because the bridge pickup wires will be pretty long. So what I'll do at this point, so I wrap it up like that, and you can either use heat shrink or electrical tape, put a wrap around it, or a tie to hold it back. So that way I've still got my wire length. It's neat, it's all there, it's not in the way. So we can definitely do that as well. So I'll go ahead and do that, yeah, and see what other shenanigans I can get into on this build. Speaking of Loverboy, there we go. So now we got want to have a nice, neat compartment for the wiring. It's going to stay straight. It's going to mount down to the pick guard with no problems. You know, it's amazing what you can do with a few cents worth of heat shrink tubing, a little bit of creativity. So that's what I do it there. So I'm going to get back to mounting some more stuff. Mount the potentiometers, the blade switch, things of that nature. I want to get the soldering done. Like I said, I'm not going to videotape the solder. I know I said it before, I'm going to say it again. Solder is solder. It's not that exciting to watch. I know some of the stuff isn't either, but hopefully it'll answer some questions people had, give you some new ideas, and maybe you can share some ideas with me. I love to learn new stuff. Every time I think that I know it all, I find out I was completely wrong. You know, so I picked up a few things here and there. So I'm going to get the soldering done, and we'll come back and we'll do some shielding. I'll explain to you the benefits of that, when you should, when you shouldn't use it. And go from there. All right, good stuff.